Hallelujah, hallelujah. Blessed be Yehovah our King, creator of all things and everything, King of the universe. We give glory to his high and holy name, for he is to be glorified at all times. My name is Zurishaddai. I'm one of the teachers of Congregation of BINAH, CHOKMAH, located in the Red Hood section of Brooklyn, New York. Our address is 382 Hamilton Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, 11231. We thank you all for tuning in. We'd like to say early Shabbat Shalom to everyone. And we pray that the creator of heaven and earth will continue to be with Kobe Yisrael, with all of Israel scattered in the four corners of the earth. We're thankful and we're grateful. Even in these times, there's so much that's going on and people being sick and getting sick. We pray that the creator will continue to protect us all, be with us, guide us, protect us, and keep us under his wing and his wings and guide our thoughts and our steps as we live in this world. Once again, we're going to go over or review the Tanakh, the Haftarah portion for Bo, and that will be done by none other than one of my teachers and my mentor, even Nasik, Zurishaddai ben Yehudah. How are you, Nasik?
Great. First of all, I need to give praises to the Supreme Eternal Universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, and God of Jacob. And due respect to the platform I'm on, and D.C.B. platform, spiritual leader, Chief Prince Ariel, Ben Yasaska, and the host, Chief Uzael, to the Princess Chief, Connie, the rabbis out there, Maureen, brothers and sisters, I greet you all into my forefathers. Shalom Aleichem, and an early Shabbat Shalom. And I'd like to say Adonai Septa Di Tako Fiyagi Tia Theka, Lord, on my lips, and I should declare that praise. We're going over the Sidra, the Haftarah Bo, but I always like to go and deal with the Sidra a little bit and maybe highlight some points I didn't get a chance to highlight when I actually did the Sidra itself at the time. No matter how often you go over it, you never really cover everything from year to year. For the sake of time, and everything like that. And sometimes you might be I might be a little bit loquacious, so talkative, so to speak. So I try to avoid that as much as possible in the Sidra Bo, and when I'm dealing with the Haftarah. But the Haftarah, like I constantly remind the viewers, that it don't explain everything or sometimes relate to everything in the Sidra. It might have some key points. Some have more than others, the Haftarah, as it says, that they read as a substitute for not being able to read the Sidra. The Sidra Bo actually comes in the 10th chapter of Exodus, and it goes to the 13th, I think 6. I'm going to make sure, or 16, 13, 16. 13, 16 is where those that might want to go over it again, even beyond what I'm saying, they might want to go back over there from Exodus the 10th chapter, first verse, all the way to the 13th chapter, the 6th verse. What's interesting, that last Sidra, we covered 7 plagues. But before that, I'd like to address some questions that was brought to me and during the week time. And I said, if I see them or if somebody having to contact me and ask about it. But I want to address one other area too that was a little bit more an issue earlier, which is about the Mamsia, the bastard. So I'm just going to go over there to the 23rd chapter of Deuteronomy. I think it came from Shimshon, Prince Shimshon. So I'm going to go to the 23rd chapter of Deuteronomy. And the 3rd verse, 23rd chapter of Deuteronomy, 3rd verse, it reads, "A bastard shall not enter the assembly of the Lord, even to the 10th generation shall none of his enter into the assembly of the Lord." Then it goes on about an Ammonite or a Moabite shall not enter into the assembly of the Lord, even to the 10th generation shall none of them enter into the assembly of the Lord forever. And it gives a reason for the Ammonites, because they met you not with bread and with water in the way when you came forth out of the land of Egypt, and because they hired against thee Balaam, the son of Beor, son of Petor, of Haram Naharaim, to curse thee. Nevertheless, the Lord thy God would not hearken unto Balaam, but the Lord thy God turned the curse into a blessing unto thee, because the Lord thy God loved thee. All right. Thou shalt not seek their peace, nor their prosperity, all thy days forever. Now, that's what the Moabite Ammonites, if you could identify them. But what I want to focus on is that when we talk about moms, everybody pretty much got a clear understanding what was considered with the Torah or the book called a bastard. Is a person that's had born from some illicit affair that the scriptures condemn. All right, so one of them could be adultery, but also mostly incest, close family relationship. Now, when we deal with Mamzer, and it says not even to the 10th generation. Now, very few of us live to see our great grandchildren. Much more, and the great grandchildren is, say you the first, your son second, you have a grandchild, that's third, and then you have a great grandchild, that's 4 generations. All right, so now you have, a great grand. So so imagine, very few people will live to see their 7th generation down the line. So now, I'm just going to throw a scenario out there. So if a guy was a mamzer, or a female was a mamzer, because that could be a male or a female. After so many generations, it'd be very, very difficult to identify them, because it might be 7 generations down. I wonder who they're marrying to have these 7 generations down. They ain't looking with anybody with a sign on their face saying, I'm a descendant of a mamzer. So that will actually, unless you happen to know for a surety, that will actually be the creator who have to deal with that situation altogether. That's something that's not even within our hands or capability, unless we know for a fact that immediate individual, because they're going to marry somebody else, because you're talking about generations. That means there's still some marriages and relationship going on. So that lets you know that sometimes you say, well, when we excommunicate a person from our particular congregation, that's the building. Most people we know go other places and stuff like that. Sometimes, other people may not honor certain other people's convictions, and they might did a whole lot of stuff. And they say, okay, I messed up over here. I'm gonna go over there because they're a lot tolerant of me, and I haven't done anything there, and they're not gonna respect other people. So that's where the creator comes in and deal with that issue. All right, now the brother Mikhail Eldridge from out of Chi-Town of Rabbi Renee's congregation asked a question concerning this particular sidra of darkness. So perhaps I might try to be able to answer. I will try to answer the best of my ability. But we're looking at the sidra bow. In the beginning of the sidra bow, when we go into the book of Exodus and the sidra bow, one of the interesting things is that we talk about the last 3 plagues. All right, so now what's unique is that they already had 7 plagues prior to that, and bow is a term that's used, and most of the teachers I heard over the between last night and this morning cover that pretty well. So I'll be remiss if I didn't reiterate some of the things that they said in reference to that. And bow, we know, is an imperative command in Hebrew, and that's usually when you tell your child to bow, and say bow, or to a female bow, You might say, Bohena, go here, come right here. But it's an order. It's not a suggestion. It's not like Bob, which is somebody that's coming. It's already an order for you to follow and get to the place where that individual is, or where the place that the person designate, or the individual designate. So now, also, I'd like to focus on earlier is when we talk about the next 3 plagues, which is locust, darkness, and the last one, which is the death of the firstborn, which is some of the interesting things we find in this particular sidra. I like to bring out that, just because I know I'm not going to cover everything, but in this particular sidra, it contains plagues. Aaron and Moses continue to plead with Pharaoh to let the Israelites go free. Pharaoh continued to refuse, and the Egyptians are punished with the last 3 plagues: locust, darkness, and the death of the firstborn. Pharaoh let the Israelites go. The Israelites proclaimed that each year on the evening of the 14th day of the first month, a festival lasting 7 days, which is CHOKMAH. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell that I'll be covering. But it's some interesting laws that comes out for us as a nation in this particular sidra. They always had, different commentaries, and one of the Ashkenaz's famous one is they say Rashi, which is Rabbi Moses, Rabbi Shlomo ben Yitzchak, Rabbi Shlomo ben Yitzchak, who they refer to as Rashi, would say, in other commentaries, said we could have actually started the book in Exodus, the 12th chapter, the 2nd verse, because this addresses Israel as a whole. Before that, we know we had commands, but it was general commands that was known, but no written commands that was or directly ordered for us coming from as a nation of people. So now the plague of locusts, it starts off in the 10th chapter. I'm going to read the opening. And the Lord said to Moses, go into Pharaoh, and I have hardened his heart and the heart of his servants, that I might show these my signs in the midst of them, and that thou mayest tell in the ears of thy son and of thy son's son what I have wrought upon Egypt, and my signs which I have done among them, that they may know that I am the Lord. All right. So we know earlier, in this particular thing, that they already got hit with 7. So when God told Moses to come, that means I'm already there. I'm already to accompany you. Moses himself was assured that God would be with him from the very beginning. But this time, it's going to be, I guess, the last series. And as I told you before, you have 3 plagues in this particular episode, Sidra, that we're covering. And you get the warning about the locust, but you don't get the warning about the plague of darkness. And they get the warning about the last plague. I told you it was in a series of every 3rd plague, 2 plagues warning, 1 plague just happens, hit them. 4th, 5th plague warning, 6th plague hit them. 7th, 8th plague, warning, 9th plague hit them. And then now we get to this final warning, and within this particular portion. But I just want to bring out in this particular chapter some of the things that were said. That after the plague of locusts and stuff like that. Matter of fact, let me just go back just a little bit in this particular portion. All right. I'll read a little bit further down. All right, and it's in the 7th verse. It said, and Pharaoh's servant said unto him, how long shall this man be a snare unto us? Let the men go, that they may serve the Lord their God. Knowest thou not yet that Egypt is destroyed? So in this particular portion here, you got Pharaoh's servant when they're talking about the locusts and the plague of the locusts, that their servants trying to urge Pharaoh, his servants trying to urge him to let these people go. All right. But what Pharaoh do, and says that he was going to let him go, but what he was going to let him go, later on. But later on, we find out that he had a condition. He had a condition because we look at the plague. He's going to let later on he was going to let everybody go, including the children, but he would not let they leave with their flocks and their herds. And we can learn something from that. What can we learn is this, that in order to come in the presence of the Creator, we don't come there empty. We come there, just say, look here, of thy own, like David said in the song, of thy own we give thee. So if we come in to worship and serve God, you can't serve with nothing. You have to have something available. Contrary to what most people believe, come as you are with this and that and the other. That's not the way we're supposed to approach the Creator. And we call him the Creator. And I just wanted, since I mentioned it, I might as well speak on that now when we talk about the name, which is a big thing in this particular portion. And I'll probably come back to it, is that the Creator has, he said his name, he has a name, but his name is a verb, which I spoke on last time. But when we call him the Creator, when we call him the Almighty, when we call him the God that answer prayers, or the God that protect you, or the God that provides, those are just roles that he do. When we say he's the merciful one, that's just a role he put on. The Creator is just a role he put on. Controlling the constellations is just one of his acts as a role, administrating, ruling, judge. Those are roles he deal with. But that's not all the roles that he deal with is not what the Creator is. We say certain things because of how we try to identify and relate to him in certain roles. But to say what the Creator is, we don't have that kind of ability to say exactly what he is. That's why his names is in a verb. It's always about what he do that we relate to. And what he do is the role he participating in, but that's not his limit. If I'm a train operator, that's my occupation. That's what I do. If I'm a doctor, a surgeon, whatever surgeon I'm in, that's what I do. All right. But what actually am I? And that's one of the things we got to look at when we talk about the Creator. When we get to and what I like about the plague of locusts is pretty much dealing with all the plagues had something to do with the Egyptian pantheons of worship. But what I like to bring out in this particular portion here is this plague that's not announced, the plague of darkness. And unlike all the other plagues, all the other things that's hit Egypt, this is the only plague that didn't cause any harm. And you say, wow, I know what the blood striking the Nile, what that do. I know what frogs did. I know what lights did. I know what boils did. All that was, causing some pain, some upheaval, some destruction, some loss of property or life. All of the plagues that preceded caused some kind of loss to either human life or either human property. But the plague of darkness is so unique that not only is not announced, it just comes within that series, which is the ninth plague. But that plague of darkness, you didn't read where it killed anybody. You didn't read where it destroyed anything. And yet you say, well, how could that actually be a plague that can really do damage? And what is the purpose of a plague like that? And then it says that the Israelites had light in their dwelling. And you say, okay. And wherever they dwell, actually, dwellings, because we always think in their houses, or the first ghetto that's ever mentioned in the book. And I mean, this is the first place where we see an idea of a ghetto, which is Goshen. Goshen is the ghetto. The definition of a ghetto is a place that's supposed to be on a lower level outwardly, but you own it. You're in control of that. You handle that. That's yours. That's yours. When you talk about in certain black neighborhoods, they say, oh, that's the ghetto over there. Look how bad them houses is. Look how it run down here. Look how the streets are. Look at the stores that they got there. I mean, look at all the garbage there. Those what we consider today as a ghetto because of the neighborhood look run down. But we don't own those, and we don't control those. The Israelites controlled Goshen. They ran that. That was theirs. So that's technically, if you're going to use the term ghetto, that's the first time, a ghetto is ever, any idea of a concept of a ghetto is Goshen in that sense. All right. And, we don't know how run down it was, but in slave quarters, it's going to be so glamorous. And shepherds are only going to have so much of a glamorous, surroundings. Is mainly used for pastoral land. So that means you're going to do more stuff outside than inside. But when we look more at it and say, well, okay, if it says, what's the difference and what's the point I'm making? If it says in all their dwellings, that means, and wherever an Israelite go, it makes a difference as opposed to say your house, because some Israelites, most Israelites, even in the pandemic, they don't stay home all day long. They go and venture out. So they have some comments, some reference to what do that word mean? For us, their dwellings in the Hebrew, because they don't use the word bayit. Used from the word, yoshev, ashab, which means shev, which means to sit. So wherever you sit at, you got some light. And what would be a purpose of it? So there's a lot of comments on that in reference. I just share a couple. You don't have to accept the viewpoint. I like to just share, since we know that already out the gate, it was no plague like the plague of darkness that actually hurt anybody. And we get another example of a plague where when it was pursuing, but I don't like to go too far ahead of the story, but when the Egyptians pursued us, the Israelites, and caught up with them, and they cried out that it was a whirlwind and a fire and an angel, and it was light to one side, thick darkness to the Egyptians, where none came by each other all that night, but Israelites on one side and an Egyptian on the other. So that didn't do anything either for us damage. And yet, but that was more of a protection. Then you got another plague of darkness, which I hopefully would answer Brother Mikael's question. When the Untitled Torah, when the commandments was given. But that darkness, I don't assume to know the answer about that darkness, but I know it represented an area or place where you get salvation. Because even when the priests, and once we got the Mishkan, and once we got the Beit HaMikdash, which is the tabernacle or the temple, that went once a year when he went to the Holy of Holies, I didn't really had any lights up in there. They had the incense making a big smoke and everything like that. So it's just something to consider that about the plague of darkness. And I'm just going to bring out this one point. They say that it was utilized in the sense that Israelites was able to travel about, but they was able to see, they had light, almost similar to the people of Sodom and Gomorrah when they wearied and when the angel smited the people with blindness. The house didn't move, but they couldn't see it. The house was still there. And Lot and them actually could still see the people, if necessary, but the people were smited with blindness, not with them. So if you think of something similar to that, if you will, they say we was told to borrow from the Egyptians jewels of gold, jewels of silver, and the raiment, silver, jewels of silver, jewels of gold, and raiments, and put them on our children. So now, how would we know what to ask for? Because everybody, I know brothers today, you can think about yourself, or sisters today, they got more jewelry in their house than they wear on their body. More jewelry. And where they put it at, the more valuable it is, the more secure it's put. So one reason they give is say, well, since the Israelites had sight, and it was light wherever they're going to win, they'd be able to know where the stash was, so to speak. So the stash was. So that's one viewpoint that's given in reference to that. We don't have to take it, and I'm not sharing information that's out there, not necessarily saying that you got to digest that information. But just one of the reasons is, if I come to a person and ask him, I want to borrow some gold bracelets, some gold coins, and some gold neck chains. How I know what to ask for unless I know that's there? So that would be something to consider. I mean, if I'm gonna borrow jewels of gold, I got to know what I'm asking for. I can't go in there and say, "Do you got any gold? Do you got any silver? Do you got any?" And what's your best clothes up in there? I know what you're wearing, but I want to know what's your best clothes in there. And it said the Egyptians were urgent. So if they had a stash, you'd be able to say, I know you stashed it over there in that wall. I know you stashed it under that fifth brick over there by the corner by the fireplace. So these are some of the reasons they give in reference to that ninth plague of darkness, because it never did any harm to the Egyptians. And so what benefit would the Israelites get out of it, other than saying, I got light? So that's just something to consider and look at. And then when we go back before the last plague, we're going to pick it up from the 27th verse of that same 10th chapter right quick. It says, because Pharaoh had said he agreed to let everybody go, but wanted the flocks to stay behind. And it says, and Moses said, everything got to go, because he don't know what we need to serve God with. 27th verse says, but the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let them go. And Pharaoh said unto him, get thee from me, take heed to thyself, see my face no more, for in the day thou seest my face, thou shalt die. And Moses said, thou hast spoken well, I will see thy face again no more. All right. And then going to the 11th chapter, and says, and the Lord said unto Moses, yet one plague more will I bring upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt, afterwards he will let you go hence. When he shall let you go, he shall surely thrust you out hence altogether. Speak now in the ears of the people, and let them ask every man of his neighbor, and every woman of her neighbor, jewels of silver and jewels of gold. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. Moreover, the man, Moses, was very great in the land of Egypt, in the sight of Pharaoh, servant, and in the sight of the people. So that means he had a lot of respect. Moses had a lot of juice. But this is the only time that Moses knew for sure that this is going to be the last plague. This last plague that we getting ready to go, which is the death of the firstborn, happened to be the plague that was promised in the very beginning of Moses' introduction to the Creator. This would be the last plague. So we know what happened then, but I just want to go into the 12th verse, and 12th chapter, 22nd, 12th chapter. And the Lord spoke unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, this month shall be the beginning of the months of, be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. I speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month, they shall take to them every man a lamb according to their father's houses, a lamb for a household. All right. Now, we get a new calendar. We start marking time different. Why? A slave has no time of his own. A slave can't designate his itinerary from day to day. The Creator letting us know prior to through Moses and Aaron that we now, no matter what the rest of the world go by, the solar calendar, no matter how they stack their months, for us, the month gonna start now. In the month of Abi, when like many people always say, taking the word Abi, which means spring, also a budding or green ear. The spelling of it, the two letters, A, bait, which is Av for father, and then Yod bait, which is in itself how you write the number 12 in Hebrew. It's the father of 12. And we know we have pretty much a 12-month calendar. But what was always a controversy, among some people would say, well, it don't say it's actually the first day of the month. They don't say that. Well, it don't say the first day of the month, and I agree with that. But what it does let you know, it's not the 10th day, because they got to be prepared, get their stuff together for the 10th day. And the word Kodesh itself, it comes from the word Kodesh, means new, something that's new, something that's novel, something that has a beginning. And you only find usually when it's Kodesh, in the beginning of months, it would be at that particular time. And we don't start a month anywhere except in the beginning. So according to most traditional views, and I say most traditional views because like I says, sometimes when you read about the Rosh Kodesh, you usually use the word Echad for, instead of, and rarely ever say like the Mishkan was erected, and they use the word Rosh Kodesh, Echad in one day, almost like Bereshit when they talk about, they don't use the term Rishon, first day, they use the word Echad, showing you a different meaning of a entirety of a day. But we know we're governed by the moon. Now, what is Egypt is governed by? Egypt is governed by the sun. All right, that's their main deity, and that's their time. And we are supposed to be more so. We deal with a lunar calendar, which most of the ancient world did pretty much had that lunar calendar and was aware of that. But deal with in reference to the moon. Now we know the moon is approximately 29 and a half days. We know also, we got some seconds and whatever it is in between that. But we know that, a new moon seems like it disappear and come back. And we know also that certain days, like some of us call speaking on in his lessons, that certain holy days we observe, such as CHOKMAH, and also Sukkot is doing on a full moon, which is at its zenith before it starts decline. So why would the Creator, choose for us to go by a lunar cycle and focus on a lunar observance? And also in our law later on, we have where we make a sin offering to God for the new moon. As I said, to the Creator, a sin offering to the Creator for the new moon, the Rosh Kodesh. All right. So, and we have nothing in relationship to the sun at all. But yet that was one of the major deities. Well, Abraham was from early Chaldeans. I just want to bring that very quick, hopefully, that they worshipped in Chaldean, there's mostly more into the moon, where in Egypt, there's more into the sun. So what would be the greatness of it? So most people figure about when they look at the sun, they think about what you get from it: warmth, crops, a lot of stimulation, sight to be able to see better. They look at what they can get. So the sun is basically, when people worship the sun more so, it's always more so about what they can get from it, because the sun gives off light, gives off heat, and it affects, a lot of things here on earth. But what do the moon do? The moon reflects the sun. It reflects the light of the sun on earth. So the moon does not just take from the sun, it gives it what it got from the sun straight to the earth. So the moon itself is more of what we should be doing. We should not only be a light, but we should be a light that gives and not take. And what is given to us, we give beyond ourselves. So therefore, when we look at the moon in relationship to the sun, everybody that look at the sun, they're looking for what they can get. But if you look at the moon, it's what I can give, what I can reflect off of me and give to somebody else. I'm sharing what came to me with somebody else. So that is one of the great principles behind our lunar calendar. And I know people have these different, debates about, whether, when did the Rosh Chodesh start, whether it's the first crescent or the disc, the silver sliver all the way around. I'm not going to get into that, but I know one thing. We start off one way. So people that move to go the other way, then it's not us that decide to break the unity. Other people moved away from the unity because we was doing it one way, and then they moved on. So, it's not to be condescending of them, saying that we're going to have these differences, and as a teacher and a leader in respective right, I recognize those differences, and I recognize that they're going to exist. All right, what we have here, just to skip it up for spending too much time on that, we get into the 12th plague, and that is about the firstborn. Now, one of the things I like to bring out about the firstborn and death of the firstborn, we was given certain parameters. Now, since when the Creator told us how to cook, people know how to, you cook lamb, you boil it, whatever the case is. But in this particular case, the Creator said, look, not only are you going to have this part of your meal, this is going to be your menu at the minimum, but even at the minimum of this menu, you're going to have lamb prepared this particular way, roasted, unleavened bread. Matzah. The first time you read that term matzah, you actually read it with Lot in Sodom and Gomorrah. And also with bitter herbs. What bitter herbs is? You take your pick. There's a lot of things that's bitter. What most commonly used in most places is one thing, but it left it indescribable what is bitter. All right. So those are the core things for that particular observance. And also that, when they had the lamb and everything like that, they had it for, 3 days of inspection. On the fourth day, the 14th of the dust, which is, Bain, outer Baim, between the evening, so between the dust, then they offer it up and sacrifice it. But before that, that each house had to have blood on the two upper and two side posts. All right, now, I hear too often, so I know now, I could focus on this, is that this is never where the destroyer slayed the Egyptians. The blood is told that we're supposed to perform that. Each house is almost like an altar. Every Israelite house was an altar. And I even dare to say, no one violated that edict. No one violated, or we'd have heard of the casualties amongst Israelites. But it tell you, later on that not a dog will move move his tongue, against the Israelites. So that means that every Israelite complied to that wholeheartedly, and not only that, the thing was that you're even told to eat a meal in haste, shoes on, tied up and everything like that, which is important. And the Passover story is supposed to be one that we say every year. We're the only people on the planet that could say our God actually slayed somebody or killed somebody for us. And when he seen the blood and he skip over the house, he would skip over the house in reference to us, because he seen that we complied with the blood on up and 2 side posts. But he would not suffer the destroyer to come in and slay us. The creator, the destroyer, and we say, well, okay, why did the creator need to see something? The creator knows who's in the house. But it's about our compliance. And he said, when he see that you comply, and what, the creator even, it's hard to say, I'm gonna save you and kill you at the same time. That's a difficult thing. I'm gonna kill you and save you. That's kind of difficult to perform. But the creator said, I was, smite, go to the land of Egypt that night, and I will smite firstborn of man and beast. Only he would know who's a firstborn of the animals and who's the firstborn of beasts. Only the creator. All right? Only he could say, all right, this guy didn't comply, get him. But the creator himself is the one that did all the slaying that particular night. A man and a beast. From Pharaoh that sat on the throne to the servant in the dungeon. That means if you was in jail, somebody died in your family. That's where you were. And you had to cry out. So imagine, you ain't crying out about your incarceration, you're crying out about the loss of a loved one. All right. And so imagine a whole nation crying at one time. So we're the only people in any ideology that has that kind of story, where God actually rescued us. And then one of the things I like to bring out also is that Pharaoh called for Moses. We know that at night and everything like that. We got law. Before we get to that, we got the law of Passover. We got a couple of laws I just want to touch on right quick, within 10 minutes. All right. One of the laws that they got is about doing this here as an ordinance every year. But also the thing that everybody that want to do it and observe it must be circumcised. All right. For that particular Passover, we the only one in our celebration for freedom in the beginning of a liberation allow an outsider, if he comply, to enjoy our freedom with us. It's one thing to say I'm free and you're the only one enjoying it and nobody's happy that you're free. But what you're doing is when you have an outsider that want to keep the Passover to the creator, because of what he did for you, that's mind you of Jethro. He was happy about what came for his son-in-law and as for the people. We know that when you're celebrating something, for you, and somebody is celebrating because you are able to celebrate, then that's a great thing. So when we have somebody to come in, it's more about inclusion as opposed to exclusion. We try to be more inviting for people to worship and serve the God we serve, not so much as pushing them away. And they had to comply for the Passover. So we're the only people that has our liberation set up where everybody else can participate in our liberation if they comply to the order. But today we don't have that particular lamb. We don't have the temple stand up. So, that part about the circumcision and everything like that for the males. And it's only for the males, not for the females. That's another thing to consider as we go on. All right. And you're supposed to talk about it. And you got some laws that they do for certain rabbinical things, which I got to bring out about the filling and stuff like that there, which they're taken in the 13th chapter of Exodus in the 8th verse. It says about the Haggadah as well. And thou shalt tell thy son in that day, saying, it is because of which the Lord thy God did for me when he came forth out of the land of Egypt. So that means we are supposed to narrate the story to our children. And it shall be for a sign unto thee upon thy hand, and for a memorial between thy eyes, that the law of the Lord may be in thy mouth. For with a strong hand hath the Lord brought thee out of Egypt. And thou shalt therefore keep this ordinance in its season from year to year. All right, there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm not going to focus on that much in reference to that. I want to get to this last portion of 13, and then go to the Haftarah. But any questions, you got to bring it out. But when they talk about the signs and everything like that, that's why you might find Israelites and people that follow, a strict or rabbinic approach, wrapping tefillin and when, tefillin, because the word totafot that's used in the plural there. And that's the first area where they get it from, and they interpret it later in rabbinic literature. This is how we should do that. This also the first time you read the term Torah Adonai, the instructions of the Creator. But yet we are told constantly to follow the laws of Moshe, Torah Moshe, the Torah Moshe. But here in this particular portion, this way you also read where the Torah of Adonai is mentioned here in the Tetragrammaton. All right. And you're supposed to do this every year, and you're supposed to speak on it. So when they tell about, you tell your children, or you tell your son, that's what the word, you use the word, Haggadah, where the word Haggadah come from, a narration or telling of a story, which is different than the bear, which is just speaking. So when you're telling the story, you actually do an explanation of it. So that's one of the things. And this last thing I want to bring out in the 12th, 11th verse. All right, 11th verse. And then bring it all the way to the 16th. And it shall be when the Lord shall bring thee into the land of Canaan, as he swore unto thee and to thy fathers, and shall give it to thee, that thou shalt set apart unto the Lord all the open womb, every firstling that is a male, which thou hast coming of a beast, shall be the Lord's. And every firstling of an ass thou shalt redeem with a lamb. And if thou wilt not redeem it, then thou shalt break its neck. And all the firstborn of man among thy sons thou shalt redeem. I want to stop there just for a minute. All right, just for a moment. And matter of fact, I'm in right there too as well. All right. But one of the things that's interesting is that it's talking about redemption here. All right, and it said all the firstborn. That's when the Creator claim all the firstborn to open up the womb, Betam Rechem, as they say in Hebrew. All right, and it got to be a male, and then it says, even that comes from a beast shall be the Lord's. And then first and number ass thou shalt redeem with a lamb, and if thou were not redeemed, then thou shalt break his neck. All right. Now, the only unclean animal that's mentioned here, which is now, is the donkey. Only unclean animal. And you say, well, it ain't talking about horses, and it ain't talking about camels. It's not talking about elephants or whatever the case is. If you had that, it's not talking about pigs. If you had that, it's not talking about that. It said that only unclean animal you're supposed to redeem is a donkey. Some say, well, that's the only unclean animal most Israelites had, being shepherds and stuff like that. They carry stuff with and move with. We know that a lot of nobilities later on in Judges, and even so-called, the Messiah and everything, rode on a donkey. Bilam rode on a donkey. He didn't ride on a horse. But what is my point in bringing this point out is not just because it's the only unclean animal that's mentioned here, but why would you do such a tragic thing instead of redeeming? In most translations it's break his neck, but in the Hebrew it means actually just to hack off the neck from behind. the word they use for, more so, which is you're not slaughtering it almost like if it's a sacrifice. You really trying to do drama dramatically. And you say, well, why wouldn't a guy redeem the firstling of a donkey? A donkey is more valuable than a lamb. The lamb goes to the Levites or the priests and stuff like that. That's what that's what it goes to. It goes to them. They get a certain part of that. So it's to teach us a certain lesson about certain individuals. That's all we could be derived from that, because a guy with some kind of sense would go ahead on and say, look, I'm going to redeem my donkey with a lamb because he's much more valuable than that, because at least I get something, but I'm sharing. Whereas a guy that don't want to redeem it with a lamb, that means I don't want nothing to go to the priest, and I don't want nothing for myself. That sounds narcissist, like a narcissist. It's all about them. I don't want to share, and I'd rather destroy it myself instead of share. That's the mentality that's brought out in this particular point right here. That I want to destroy this here animal instead of give the priests or the Levites their portion, which is really much cheaper than slaughtering the donkey. And so that's just one area that I like to bring out in reference to that, in that particular portion, that it shows that the wickedness of the individual, the cruelty of the individual, if he refused not to redeem, the donkey, and he rather just destroy it, where he don't benefit, and the priest don't benefit. So, and it's all about sharing. Sharing the love, sharing the wealth as well. All right. And then when you talk about the redemption of a son here, it don't tell you how in this particular chapter. We have to see later on in the book of Numbers about how is the son redeemed. But right here, when we got this law, and it's told to us in the book of Exodus, we don't see how it's done. So we're going to go straight to Jeremiah. I hope I didn't confuse too many people. But if I did, I apologize. And you always leave a message and, get back to you if I can. All right, so we're going to be going to Haftarah and Jeremiah, the 46th chapter, and 13th verse, and it's going to the 28th verse. And what's interesting is that Jeremiah, like I said last time, is a prophet to the nations, and he's talking about a lot of the destruction and judgment on certain nations. Right now, the correlation here is that the first nation of all nations to talk about in a negative sense and about destruction is where we at now in this particular sidra, in Egypt. Straight out of Egypt. They used to have sang a song in Shema, straight out of Egypt. So he's talking about Egypt. All right, so we're gonna pick it up from the Jeremiah, the 46th chapter, 13th verse. Have you got that, Chief? All right. Hallelujah.
Jeremiah chapter 46, verse 13. Hallelujah. The word that Yahuwah spoke to Jeremiah the prophet, how that Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, should come and smite the land of Egypt.
Hold right there. You just said, you're going to describe it real good. Say, look, it ain't about you right now, because we got confidence in Egypt. Because if you forget Egypt, the Egyptians, man, they're a powerhouse. So, and we was incubated in Egypt. And it took God to bring Egypt down. No other nation took Egypt down. So now, since no other nation prior took Egypt down, before the Creator with these plagues took it down, we say, hey, the only reason that Egypt, got beat down is because God beat them down. Nobody else beat them down. They don't have a record of losing like that. So, to that degree in their glory days. So the Creator had to bring this out through Jeremiah, because we still had confidence in Egypt.
Verse 14.
Yes.
It reads, declare ye in Egypt, and announce in Migdol, and announce in Naph and in Taphanes. Say ye, stand forth and prepare thee, for the sword have devoured round about thee. Why is thy strong one overthrown? He stood not because Yehovah did thrust him down. He made many to stumble. Yea, they fell one upon another and said, Arise and let us return to our own people and to the land of our birth from the oppressing sword.
Right there. Now, Egyptians weren't known to run too tough, you know, and especially immortality was one of the things. It's almost like the Vikings, you know, they rather fight, you know, the Viking philosophy, you know, die on the battlefield because they go to the halls of Valhalla, you know, so the Egyptians had that kind of mentality. And all of a sudden, now that mentality is broken and stricken. But we ourselves had confidence in Egypt because, like I said, Assyria had beat down Syria, where Nebuchadnezzar's Babylon's mainly at. And then the Syrians and the Medes got together and beat Assyria. And then later on, the Medes and the Persian conjectured together, so these guys had losses before under their belt. But the Egyptians, once they became a powerhouse, we don't read about nobody beating them down but the Creator. So we figured, hey, nobody could beat the Egyptians. We might as well get them, working with us. Even Jeroboam, where he fled to Egypt. But let's pick it up from here.
Verse 17. They cry there, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, is but a noise. He have let the appointed time pass by.
Hold on right there. Now, sometime before we get to the 18th verse, the appointed time passed by. He's just a noise. Procrastinating. Pharaoh, we could relate this to the death of the firstborn. You wait too long. Your servant said, look here, don't you know we destroy? So why are you still doing what you're doing? But Pharaoh, stuck to his true self. And here it is that some historians, I don't know for sure, that the good King Josiah, when Pharaoh Necho was going to fight against the people of the plains and then going against certain parts of Babylon at that time, that he got delayed. And it's during Jeremiah's time. He got delayed because Josiah got involved in the match and fought against, Pharaoh Necho and got killed there. And Jeremiah mourned for him. So those that might want to look that up in, different parts of Kings and stuff like that. And that's one of the delay things that happened. That, Josiah, I can understand him for political reasons too as well. You're going to fight a guy up north of me, but you got to pass through my territory to get up north. So now it's almost like I'm okay with you, and then still drive up north, and with the Northern Kingdom, because remember the Northern Kingdom already got taken up by the North guys. So it's a lot of political stuff involved in there, which I'm not going to go into it now, but I'm just bring out some thoughts in passing that you can say, well, why Josiah got involved when Pharaoh Necho said, the Lord told me to go ahead and handle this. All right, but read a little bit further, 18.
Verse 18 reads, As I live, saith the king, whose name is Yehovah of hosts, surely like Tabor among the mountains, and like Carmel by the sea, so shall he come. O thou daughter that dwellest in Egypt, furnish thyself to go into captivity, for north shall become a desolation, and shall be laid waste without habitat, without inhabitant.
All right, those are major cities and stuff like that. Start up with the one part, the central part of upper north, and then get the other parts of Egypt. But these are key spots in Egypt where the deities were and where headquarters were and stuff of that nature. All right, 20 verse.
Verse 20 reads, Egypt is a very fair heifer, but the gadfly out of the north is come, it is come. Also her mercenaries in the midst of her are like calves of the stall, for they also are turned back. They are fled away together, they did not stand, for the day of their calamity is come upon them, the time of their visitation. The sound thereof shall go like the serpents, for they march with an army, and come against her with axes as hewers of wood.
Before we get to the 23rd, hold on. All right. First of all right, the gadfly and the heifer and stuff like that. We know we had certain plagues. So remember this in certain plagues that got the beasts and boils and you know, and different ticks that they had. And sometimes we might refer to it as like locust, the last one of the 8th plague that is talk about like the locust and devastation and cutting down. Well, that army of Nebuchadnezzar going to be like that on the Egyptians. And you know, one of the irony is that how do young ladies get prepared to go to jail? You know, and especially in those times when a woman captured, especially by people who have low morals, everything gonna go down. So do you look really fine so that you don't get killed? Or you look like you're mourning, you know, when you get killed. You look really fine, you're gonna get raped, and somebody might like you and take you, you know, as a wife. Or you look like you're destitute and they say, well, you don't look good already, I might as well just get rid of you. You know, so are you gonna look fine to save your children? So all this stuff. So how do one prepare to go to jail in ancient times? You know, and you know, so that is a mind boggler in itself. But it goes on further and say,
it reads,
29.
verse 23, they cut down her forest, saith Yehovah, though it cannot be searched, because they are more than the locusts and are innumerable. The daughter of Egypt is put to shame. She is delivered into the hand of the people of the north. Yehovah of hosts, the God of Yisrael, saith, behold, I will punish Ammon of No and Paro in Egypt with her gods and her kings, even Paro and them that trust in him.
All right, that's all right. So Ammon is the capital, that's their imperial city. You know, right where all the right outside the palace of Pharaoh. That's right outside the palace of Pharaoh. What you describing. Go ahead. 26.
Verse 26. And I will deliver them into the hand of those that seek their lives, and into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, into the hand of his servants, and afterwards it shall be inhabited, as in the days of old, saith Yehovah.
Right then and there. So, all right. So now, right then, and the Creator let him know, like I said last time, when we spoke about in Jeremiah, a different prophecy, that and different prophecy about Egypt going in captivity for 40 years, but they're coming back, and also expressed that only the Creator know who's the real Egyptians, and he brought them back, and they had less time than we did. And it was an attitude of gratitude, like that. So measure for measure. But when we look here, right then and there, that that they coming back, then what we gonna be shook up because we had faith in them. We had faith in them, and we're gonna do more time than they did under Nebuchadnezzar. More time, and we're supposed to be the chosen ones, and the elect of the Creator, the first fruits. But the 27th verse, the last 2 verses.
Verse 27 reads, but fear not thou, O Yaakov, my servant, neither be dismayed, O Yisrael. For lo, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of their captivity. And Jacob shall again be quiet at ease, and none shall make him afraid.
Hold on, before we go there. Now, all right, you got hope of getting out of jail, but when a person say you coming out, your day coming out is X amount of days ahead. And so, okay, I want out. But when you want out, I want out yesterday, not tomorrow, not the day that's coming. So the prophet got to encourage them, you know, fear not, you know. So if the Egyptians had to prepare for captivity, what made Jeremiah such a traitor, he told him, look here, prepare to build houses where you're going to jail at. You're going to be there for a minute. Get comfortable. You know, pull your weight up, as they say in these days and time. Pull your weight up. You know, you got to bulk up. You know what I mean? Because you get accustomed to this here. You know, you're not going to call any more shots.
Right.
So, but the Creator said, even in captivity, we're going to do well. You know, and the thing is that we can't do but so well. And one of the things I always express that, and I heard one of the brothers speaking in, I think his name was Ezra Scribe from CHOKMAH, and he used the 23rd Psalm in that sense, where God prepared a table for, me in the presence of my enemies, when he talked about David. And that's a real thing. Now, how much can you enjoy yourself? Even though God prepared a table for you, even though you're in captivity, though you're being successful, how much can you actually enjoy yourself when you know your surroundings don't like you, and you know you out of place, and you know that you be treated better than the ones that's there with the little you have, all right? And the table is theirs, but it said the Creator prepared it for you. So you in somebody else's spot, sitting in the most honorable position, and they sitting around, now how this dude get up in here? Like that. But Moses was well liked, well known, very popular amongst the Egyptians first. You notice it said Egyptians first, and then it said the people. So that lets you know that sometimes other people will recognize your greatness that before even your own recognize your greatness. But even he still recognizes great. And it goes on the last line of that.
Last verse reads, "Fear not thou, O Jacob, my servant, saith Yehovah, for I am with thee. For I will make a full end of all the nations whither I have driven thee, but I will not make a full end of thee. And I will correct thee in measure, but will not utterly destroy thee." Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. That means we're going to get beat down. We got to get some stripes now. Somebody got to get a whipping. You got to get the whipping, because the Creator wouldn't be just if we didn't get a whipping. But he allowed us to be somewhat successful in the land of our captivity. But if we was really, truly successful to the ultimate, we wouldn't want to leave here. I had an uncle when I was new to this way of life, and he said, I could tell you where in the Mississippi River, the Jordan River, only one flow due north. That's what he used to tell me when I was a kid. And I'm in this way of life. And I say, Uncle Harvey, come on, man. I say, you have a bad sense of geography. You talk about the Mississippi River, it's the Jordan River. But, as time went on, I said, well, maybe they know it flows into the Gulf, but maybe they know going the opposite way where it's flowing is you're going to head up to the free states if you make it that far.
Right.
If you make it that far.
Right.
So it's just something, how people would, be content even in the most worst conditions. A guy that's out there, I was a train operator for quite a few years, 20-something years in transit. And I noticed that some people got accustomed to staying in the train and living there year round, summertime, wintertime, and they don't look like they dying. And you wonder how they get so accustomed to that kind of living. And they be out there all night. They got their sleeping quarters at night, just like everybody else. And in the daytime, they disappear, because a lot of the people that work that ride to work on the subway system, you don't see as many homeless people on there. But let night come around, let it get towards the evening time, you're gonna find a lot of them up there. And those that leave to go, like maybe go to work maybe 4 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning. Now you're gonna see a lot of them up there, but only a few stay there to a certain amount of time in the morning. Then they get off that train. It's almost like they got to punch a time clock. So you could get used to almost anything. They eat out of the garbage there, and they know which food to pick, because they be sorting the food out when they eat out them garbage bins. They sort it out. I said, look, I don't want that one. I seen this, male, females, seen them doing like that, and they get comfortable. And they be satisfied, actually satisfied. And some of them, ironically, have money on them. So the Creator, can make you feel comfortable, or your mindset can make you feel comfortable in condition. But if the Creator in this land of our captivity, we only going to be so successful. So I hope you got something out of what I said. Any mistakes been my own. With that, I say shalom alaikum and early Shabbat shalom.
Hallelujah. Nasik, I have a question, right? This is nothing to do with the lesson. It's just more so history, our recent history, and maybe going back 40, 50 years. What is the what was the relationship between in the 60s and like in the mid 60s when you came around? What was the relationship between like the congregations like BINAH and what we would say today, what quote unquote black Jews like Ben Yehudah, Rabbi Levi ben Levi, like those congregations based Shalom. What was the relationship and what was the interaction between those congregations?
Well, the only thing, since I come around, because they've been around longer than I'm to myself, and pretty much it's along with my age as well. But I understand, because I got the chance to meet some of the original leaders of those different guys, is that a lot, since there's kind of close and so few Israelites, a lot of brothers from BINAH would go from BINAH to maybe guys like Rabbi Levi or Rabbi Yirmiyahu or I think Wilkins, if I can get his name right, I've been here died. Right. And go up to Harlem a lot, and that's why you see the pictures of Prince and them on at different congregations when on the Schomburg, with them standing out there in the corner with Prince Yaakov, Chief Counsel Daniel, Prince Rubal, right. Chief Joshua. All right, they'd go up to Harlem a lot, so they would hang out with Israelites, but they had different things to offer, and it was a little bit more organized than BINAH at the time, definitely by far. Was that they had the Hebrew, they had a system of learning that was strong. Pop Bibbins himself being up in Harlem, he had a more of a radical approach, and that was more of BINAH's approach, more of a radical approach when they got functioning. So they just say the only issue we had technically with them is the dress code at the time. That's the only major issue that they had, and the condescending attitude of, you're trying to be a poor carbon copy of the other side. All right. So that was it. But they had a lot of good stuff to offer, because unbeknown to a lot of people is that Beit Shalom on Willoughby, and when a lot of people before Rabbi Ben Levi even moved to Willoughby, I remember when he's trying to get donations on Marcy Avenue. That a lot of people from BINAH went there, and some of the founding members of Beit Shalom over there on Willoughby, and there's quite a few. And I went in there a few times before. A lot of members that's actually there as a youth, visiting, because I learned quite a bit in my early stage listening to the late Chief Rabbi Levi ben Levi myself as a youngster, and that was part of my development. I should go over there to BINAH and listen to their teachings in between, because we have some going on all day long. Then, especially when Prince went there in Chicago, we would never be there all day long in BINAH. When Prince went there in Chicago for those years from '69 to '72, so I had plenty of time to visit the same guys who I was introduced to, not directly, but I became known through them by visiting them so much and dressing the way I dress, being an oddball dressed the way I dressed in there at the time. So people got to, know me as, firsthand, and so I should visit them. I should visit Tabernacle with Priest Shabbathia, who these guys here was dynamic speakers. I mean, really, really dynamic speakers. You had guys like Priest Emmanuel to come out of there. What most people don't realize is that one of the great Hebrew teachers too that came from Tabernacle was Morey Tiba. That went to they think of him as coming from Ben Yehudah originally, and then going to the Commandment Keepers over there in Harlem. But he's originally from that same spot, Tabernacle. And you had a lot of super speakers coming out of there. It wouldn't be, and even though they had a lot of New Testament stuff in there, it was just me as a youngster. I'm learning, so I'm trying to get what I can get. The only thing was just a certain doctrine I didn't take, but I listened to a lot of their teachings and was educated through all of them. So, and then I got to know these guys personally. I got to know the late Rabbi Ben Levy personally, and his whole family. Like I said, they could attest. They know me from before Rabbi Shlomo feet could even touch the bottom of the ground. And I know I didn't know. Only one I didn't know real well like that was the late Rabbi Wilkins. I didn't know him real well like that, and I didn't know Rabbi Matthews real well like that. I knew of him, met him, and I met Pop Bivens, but I'm with the rest of the crew, so I'm not like a major teacher at that time. So I met him personally a few times, but they had like I said, I learned quite a bit from going to different places, and the guys that stuck around my circles, and some of the original top teachers from BINAH YAH, naturally growing up being an exponent of BINAH YAH, I got to know them and pursue my own particular skills and develop my skills with a combination of. But those people I met only through Prince Yaakov's himself going around, because he had the idea and ideology. Don't be afraid to go any place. Everybody has something to offer. Even back then, though people don't think BINAH YAH had that kind of mentality, it's the only reason I know these guys. Only reason I became okay with these guys, because I first met them traveling with Prince, the various congregation, and I continued that circle. And Rabbi Ben Levy used to also be, come through my block when I used to live on there a lot, as well. And also the late priest Shabbathia, I was teaching martial arts inside of his daycare center, big center that they had. And I was teaching martial arts there as an assistant instructor, and he was the custodian there. So that's how I got to know him really well as well. And of course, the late Rabbi Bradshaw, who actually came from Tabernacle as well. All these guys, he had some good teachers.
I know you say you didn't know him really well, but I'm sure you heard him teach. Rabbi Yirmiyahu, right? Who was, before he was Rabbi Wilkins, but we know him as Rabbi Yirmiyahu from Beni Hadad. How was he as a teacher? Because I know he was, I know that he was Cohen Levy's teacher, and Cohen Levy in turn became one of Prince Paul's teachers, or his first teacher. So I was wondering, was that style, since you've seen all three teach, was that style like similar, like you could see the branch, or was it something different?
Well, to be perfectly honest, the style we teach, pretty much like you've been to D.C.B, right. Shabbat, Cohen Levy and them, that's been his Akeem style that come out of people from Tabernacle. Okay. Because they was really serious fireball. And if you notice, and to be honest, not that they didn't have good teachers in those spots. Now, I'm not saying, it's just, we're talking about style now and charisma.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Because they might speak maybe 15 minutes, 10 minutes, and what you gonna get out of that?
On the schedule, right?
And that's it. And that was pretty much the day. Unless you was in the Escalon, you sat on the sideline, they might have been talking, something that I never really did in them days with them. But I heard them teaching from the Bema. I heard them expound on different portions. The late Rabbi Matthews, the late Rabbi Brooks, I heard them expound. I mean, these supposed to be powerhouses. Rabbi White expounded a little bit longer than most, when he took over the commandment keepers from Rabbi Matthews. The late Rob Mishun expounded a little more too when he became in charge of BINAH YAH, as well. He spoke a little bit more, but as far as the style and the topics, where you was really equipped, where and this is not to be condescending, but trying to share some information of the truth, is that if you follow more of a rabbinic approach, now you might focus on Talmudic, stuff, Mishnah stuff, midrashim. It's different type than Mekilta is like a halakha type midrash, and then you got the regular midrash is just a story that fill in gaps, but not something really try to implement. Then you might hear the Sidra court, and it'd be brief, and you might read only those Haftarah pretty much. And that comes up along with the Sidra if they're going to expound on that, especially high power ones they'll deal with, or which one would be gravitating to most people. But in BINAH King, you in Chronicles, you in Judges, you in Kings, you in the Samuels, you're in the Book of Ruth. You're dealing with all the stuff, but besides some other so-called minor prophets, Nahum. And Zechariah and stuff like that. Not just the Haftarah. You reading those books and guys coming out there fiery with all this stuff from different parts of the Tanakh. And even to this day, where I visit now, most people never touch on some of the stuff that we take for granted from, pretty much, like brothers in D.C.B, nowadays Hashaba, and also guys from various different congregations that has more of like a freestyle teaching, so to speak. That's one of our greatest strengths. It's because we are aware of more of the book, and we take an interest in the book, the social structure. And I'm gonna give that up for the world. Because I find it to be very helpful for me, even at this point in time. I find it to be very helpful.
You think that because you did say that they had you said that in those places they did have a structured way of teaching, and the reason why Nasik Yaakov and some of the leaders will go, I guess, around them is to kind of gleam off of that, because the Hebrew, like you said, you pointed out the Hebrew and certain other things, but you're saying that the style that we got and that Hashaba Yisrael,
that's definitely been as I came without a shadow of doubt.
And Hashaba Yisrael, yeah, that originated from the temple. What's the name of the congregation? Tabernacle.
Oh, Tabernacle Yisrael, yeah.
The Tabernacle of Yisrael. Okay, you said that originated from there because Nasik Yaakov attended there for a while, right?
Oh, quite a while. Quite a while.
Him
and and they was the actual beginning founders of that. And then they had guys, Prince Abner, Prince Keller. I think Prince Abner came from Ben Swally Bed. I'm not sure. They was talking about Ben Swally Bed. There used to be a place on Gates Avenue and True. A little before my times. I really know Prince Abner that well. I knew Prince Keller well, and I knew him well. But Prince Abner, I really didn't know him that well, and that's because Prince Keller would come around a little bit more.
Wow, that's interesting to know, because I would have never known that if I didn't ask you that style came from there, and you could attest to it because you were connected to you saw almost the beginning of BINAH King, and you were connected and knew the people from that other Tabernacle of Yisrael. So it's very interesting.
Oh yeah, we got some really good speakers, and I like to add this here too. The Creator kept me in a sense where, because I would have been a cocky guy, I would have been like one of almost like them guys that's radical, pretty radical.
Yeah.
Because now, all right, you only got 15 minutes that you said something here, or whatever the case is, and I had to go to the classes and stuff like that. So I feel like, I'm lethal. I feel I'm lethal, but but I didn't know. I'm glad, that I didn't really exercise as much of that kind of attitude, amongst Israelites. But personally, I felt, like, oh, that's all you got, in reference to that. And I'm knowing that I'm listening to brothers talk back to back, and the next speaker coming up back to back, and he'll go through a different part of the book back hard. And if the other guy made a mistake, even in our time on Buffalo Avenue, when we had, Chief Elazar, Chief Syria,
Yeah.
all right, yeah, Chief Slow-Mo and stuff like that.
Right.
So if we had a series, a lineup, you had some fire lineup. You better not make too much of a mistake. Cause the next guy coming up there, it wasn't really that kind, in that sense. Right. So, and then Prince Alfred was definitely, bless the memory, he would definitely come at you hard if you made a mistake up on that bema. And then and most of y'all know the late Chief Counsel read the book.
Right.
He'd tell you. And then also you had guys like I neglected to mention Chief Kime. Chief Kime is really he's one of the guys that I said pretty much remember the longest because he was left in charge of the camp for 3 years. So I learned quite a bit from Chief Kime coming up to it while I neglected that. Prince Rubal, I learned some stuff from him as well. And Chief Barak was like my immediate teacher coming in. But after the dispersion in '69, Chief Kime was like the main guy running BINAH Zakim for those 3 years. And he's a very, very good speaker, very good speaker.
Mm. So it was almost sort of like when that first teacher went up and he lit it up, you knew you couldn't come up there slacking. So it kept the intensity up.
I'm gonna tell you, I hope this is gonna be too long for people, but
this is great history. The people gonna enjoy this.
All right, but if you was a weak speaker, somebody say, get that brother down, and they say a lot harder than when I say brother. They say a lot harder than brother. Yeah, I say, you don't know what he's talking about. Get him down, and whoever, and later years, I was doing pretty much what you do at D.C.B. I was doing stuff like that, and brothers are stumbling and bumbling and stuff like that, and you better not ask that you want to come up there, and stumbling and bumbling because guys, and plus y'all being on Nosen Avenue, see that same side for Chief Elazar. You see, he didn't take no slacks, slacks and stuff like that.
Right.
He'll tell you whether you know something or not right off the top.
Right.
And don't sugarcoat it. So I learned to be a lot more tolerant these days, a lot more, compassionate. But that was the flavor back then. That was actually what people did. And I never was like hard like some of these brothers were, but they was hard. Chief Ephraim, he could tell you they was hard. They didn't play. And in actuality, it was a while for Prince of Paul actually was teaching in BINAH Zakim because it was not even so much because of that problem, speaking, but it was that kind of cutthroat competition, so to speak, on that bema. And we used to say, you get up there, you better ride that horse. That was our cliche saying. You get up there, you better ride the horse.
Right.
Don't fall off. We're gonna pull you.
Don't fall off. Don't fall off. So, and I'm grateful for that. For all you guys, because you could see the tree that we come from. The brothers that come from that tree and how we were influenced by that. And knowing how to. I think what I learned the most, and we can't forget Chief Amos. What I think we learned the most is how to read a crowd, right? Because sometimes you get up there and some people get up there and they teach and they don't know how to read a crowd. But I think what I learned from you guys is how to read a crowd and how to manage a crowd and how to get up there and know what to say when you need to say it at the right time. And I think that's the biggest thing that I got from that branch, from the branch of BINAH Zakim is we learn how to read a crowd, and you could call us up on the spot and we don't need a script, basically. We don't need a script, and that was from the training that we got from all the teachers that were there.
Well, one of the things that Prince Yaakov, blessed memory, used to say, that if you see a bunch of chief men, but they're princes and chiefs, nobility status, you're supposed to be able to ask any one of them most of the basic questions, anyone, and it's supposed to be an adequate answer, from anyone. But if you was a prince or chief or something like that, and you couldn't ask them certain questions, then that was a stigma on our order at the time. That's why I read chief counsel. Chief counsel was a rough guy. I mean, in my youth, I sat under him too, and I seen him cut into guys about the book, man. I seen him cut into it, and he's real hard, But he was about that life, about that book.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing how you could go back and you could see the history and it plays out right in front of us, and we see these teachers and you hear about these teachers, but you like when I first heard Chief Shalom, I heard him later. I didn't hear him in the 70s. I heard Chief Shalom, I think, for the first time in the 90s. I heard Prince Reuben in the late 80s, 90s, right?
Yeah,
even Prince Reuben as an elder for me at that time, he was still, people used to think Prince Reuben was a little bit, way out there, but he was talking about stuff that's happening now back then. He was talking about the satellites following you and the GPS and all that type of stuff. He was talking about that stuff back then when we didn't know anything about that. So he was reading.
They didn't even have a cell phone then. They didn't even have a cell phone then.
Right. And he was talking about they're going to beam information into this satellite and it's going to be tracking you. And then about 10 years later, the movie with Will Smith came out. And I was like, wow, Prince Reuben told me about that 10 years ago, So people used to think that he was like a little bit out there. He used to have his little way and his little comedic way, but he was a dynamic speaker also.
Well, the thing is that, to be honest, about when I say the style and the speaking, charismatic, and I applaud all the new teachers today because y'all know a lot more about the book than we did at that same age at the time y'all put in, and you're more accurate with your teachings than we were coming up. Y'all got much more insight into scriptures.
And the access to the information is easier than back then.
Yeah. So far as time-wise that y'all put in compared to the time-wise other guys put in, my teachers coming up, y'all made, leaps and bounds beyond that in a short time. So that's one of the things that, make me laugh sometimes when I listen to some of y'all guys teaching and stuff, and I say, wow, if I knew that then, imagine where I'd be at right now. Because even though some of the stuff, you're saying that I might know now, I was saying, look at the difference in the age bracket. And I'm saying, if I knew that at their age, then I tell my sons that, because a lot of times I get a lot of information from my sons, just talking and sharing with them, Yeti, Kiva, BINAH, and Kim, all them. So when we talk and sit down in conversation, and I tell them it, but they find it hard to believe because I'm always seem to be giving them some advice and some insight. But I said, I admire y'all. I said, because y'all knew a lot more than I did at that age.
Right. A question for you in terms of someone who is do you think a teacher could be developed, or from your experiences of seeing, you think that this is more something that's innate in you and you feel your way out and you figure it out as you go along? Or do you feel like, I know some people are born charismatic, could speak, but do you think that a teacher could be developed, or that's just something natural in you that you're born with?
All right. First of all, I got to make a difference between a motivational speaker, in a sense, or a charismatic speaker, and a teacher, and then a preacher. All right. So you got these different categories. You know what I mean? Because a motivated speaker, it could be anybody in the block. Talk to you strong enough to where you could do good or bad. That's motivational. You know, he convention got that.
Like
you know,
a drill sergeant almost.
Pretty much so. You know, but unlike a drill sergeant, they don't care about. You know, that's what makes the difference between a teacher and a guy giving orders, right? The guy that's a motivational speaker, he gonna actually give you the feel, the quick feel that you know, I mean, I can, I should be able to do this here, and so it's not whether it's good or bad. His talk and his delivery make you say, you know, is it's almost like a. If I use a weak scenario example, when you see boxing, the guys box and they be boxing, and the fight started to get really good, and guys be up there saying, "That hurt me." You watching TV? How I hurt you? You watching it on the screen? How I hurt you? You ducking and everything. Whether it's basketball, you say, "Man, you see that move?" So that's a motivational speaker. Now, a charismatic speaker, you know, make you feel the height. Make you feel the height. And say, and then you get the hallelujahs and the applause and everything like that, and charismatic, but you're not doing anything. That's an inspirational point. Get there, and that's the end. Right. All right. A preacher tells you stuff you know. All right. That's all he's doing. Just getting an assembly. That's why we got the book Kohelet. Kohelet means to assemble. And that's the nickname, and that's the term we use for a preacher. So he's just telling you things you should already know, and just in a way where you should take more reconnaissance of it. Now, the last one is the teacher. The teacher is not only supposed to give you new information, but the teacher got to learn the source that he's giving the information from, giving the information to, right? So you're not only taking in information from the teacher, but the teacher got to also learn from you that how I need to disseminate that information. So he's learning as well as you're learning, and it's new information that you never had before. So that's what makes the teacher. Now, everybody is commanded to teach certain things. That's why it's narrated about the Passover story we just talked about. You're told to talk about that, and you're also told what to say. Whether the question is asked or not, you're told what to say just from the text, not just from the Passover Haggadah that most people use if they follow a rabbinic approach. But you are told not only what to say, the presupposed questions, how to answer it, and you can always go in depth. But you're supposed to always talk about the Passover and that particular night. So that's the thing where teachers have to be developed. You're never born that. You might be born where you ain't shy, you can run your mouth. But to be a teacher, it takes development. And so there's no shortcut to that. So that's why I said it's a big difference in that. And those different 4 categories I just laid out there.
Have you ever seen someone with all 4 characteristics?
More often than not, I've seen a lot of people for all the characteristics, but and how now you're talking levels though. What level that they doing what they do, because you can have a base level and a high laudable level, and you can have a righteous level, and you have a wicked level, because wickedness, if you look up the word term wickedness, is a principle or the standard done with great skill. I used to say sometimes when I was sharing with my son, I said I try not to be cerebral. I try to be more celestial in my thoughts. I said, because if you ate the fruit, they said the tree of knowledge of good and evil. I said, which side of the fruit got the evil? Which side got the good in it? But they both got knowledge. So, and that means that wickedness is the principle or standard might be done with great skill, So like the Nakash, the term that's used in this Haftarah concerning Pharaoh, which is not used, and when the serpents when the rods changed into a serpent, or when it did with the last Haftarah concerning Pharaoh.
Hallelujah. Torah Abba Nasik. Your knowledge is valuable, and you know, I have to ask these questions because or else we have a lot of people that are gone and can't give us answers, but we still got elders in the midst of us that are of sound mind and could give us answer and could put things in perspective. Because a lot of times we don't know. A lot of times we perceive, but when you have someone that could give you something, could clarify something for you, and could point it out to us at last through history. These videos are going to be here well after we're gone, so people will know the true history of what happened, how certain things were developed. I found out something new today that our style of teaching comes more so from Tabernacle of Yisrael, which is something that I never knew. So Toda, once again for your diligence and the work that you put in. Us here at Congregation Bay D.C.B, we truly appreciate it, and the listening audience truly appreciates it, and you can see that by the numbers every Friday night. They look forward to listening to you, Nasik, and
I hope I've been a help and not to make too many mistakes or steer people wrong, because I don't want to get jammed up behind that by the creators. I need all the help I can get.
Hallelujah. I think you're doing a magnificent job, and when mistakes happen, I mean, I've seen you come and correct yourself 1 or 2 times here, so it's not because I know you look over your lessons and you review them. So thank you once again. Shalom, shalom, everyone. May the Creator of heaven and earth bless you all, and we will see you, Yah willing, next week. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. All right.